Hi. Okay, so hopefully this works again, this tripod, but a couple of days ago there was this premiere of a show called Blackish that premiered on ABC at 9:30 p.m. starring Tracy Ellis Ross and some actor that plays her husband who I do not know his name at the moment, but it basically centers around a suburban African American family, and they talk about the woes of low blackness, who's black enough, who goes through microaggressions in the workforce, which is basically what it's about with the husband. And then he has three children. I don't know, four children, two young children, and then two older children. There is an older daughter, an older son, and a young daughter and a young son. But from what I saw, I thought it was decent. Of course, there are some problems that people have accordingly pointed out, but I feel like it's a good addition for diversity in television networks because you don't really see a lot of shows these days about an African American family. Not like it used to be, because I feel like the 90s. Okay, I don't think I'm even. I don't think I look like I'm even looking at you, but wait. Why does it look like I'm not even looking at the camera? I hate that. Am I look? Okay, this is weird. Well, I'm just gonna try to do my best. But in the 90s, we had shows like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. We had shows like I don't know. I mean Martin, but that's not really a show about an African American family. But in the 80s, we had a slew of them, especially the 70s. But now it seems like they're slacking. So, of course, I thought, Blackish, it seems a little bit iffy because from what they show, Tracy Ellis Ross, who is biracial and light-skinned, and he made it a point to say, a black woman who's not really that black, which, of course, that's an ignorant comment, but she's like, if I'm really not that black, can you explain my hair and ass? And I felt like, first of all, Tracy, you don't have nappy hair. You have loose textured hair that's glorified in a natural hair community. So let's not get started. And you are a thick red bone. So because you have a big ass but you're not dark skinned, you're going to get glorified for that reason by black men in the African American community, because that's basically what it is. You are a thick red bone. So you're not really marginalized for having a looser textured hair, being light skinned with big ass, having closer to white features, and still having some remnants of Afrocentrism to you. And I like Tracy Ellis Ross, so I don't really have an issue with her. It's just, because she's supposed to be kind of oblivious. She's the one that's like, oh, I don't want my children to see race. One thing I did kind of agree with was when the two young children were talking about a girl in class who they thought was weird. And the dad was like, well, why aren't you calling her by her race? Why can't you just say black girl? I feel like in a way you really should not marginalize young children by saying that black girl, because so many white children are described as being that child with the dark hair or that child with the blonde hair. But because there's that one minority, they have to say, oh, that black person. And of course you have to bring up someone's race to let you know that, yeah, their difference, and it's not an issue, but it's an issue where you reduce that person to just that black kid, not someone with the braids and the blonde streaks in the hair, or the one with the glasses, no, or the one in like the pale pink shirt. No, like it has to be like that black kid, and that's all I am. And I never wanted to be that way. Of course, I wanted people to know, hey, I am black, I am African American, but I did not want it to be like just that black girl and nothing else. That's all you need to know. Like, I have a personality, I have traits, I have, a physical form. I'm not just black, I'm not just brown. So I did kind of agree that, you shouldn't really be like that black kid in that class, or it's weird. And I understand how if you're in a group where it's mostly white people and then there's a few black people, then you kind of have to distinguish that. But when it gets to the point where it's all they are and they don't really have any feelings or personality or individuality, then yeah, you should like make it a note to not always say that they are black. Another point in the show is the oldest son who is having identity issues. Like, he's like the benevolent, internally racist black kid that I used to be. You know, like, I just want to fit in because he's around a lot of white kids. So of course he wants to fit in and make friends. But one interesting point was he wanted to have a bar mitzvah. The boy is not Jewish, and I felt like it was problematic to like just throw in Judaism into like the whole black kid trying to be white mix, because already from what I've seen and from what I've known, people whitewash Jewish culture and make it like it's a bunch of rich, privileged white people, and that every person with within the Jewish religion or of the ethnicity have white privilege, and that's not true. Or that they are all white passing, because there are so many POC and visible POC who are Jewish, and a lot of the marginalization and discrimination they get is intertwined with not only anti-Semitism but racism and religious bigotry and discrimination. So I felt like, well, yeah, the children at his school are obviously Jewish, because the school I went to in high school, you know, had a large population of Italians and Jewish people. So like a lot of, you know, the encounters I had with those with white privilege were like Jewish or Italian. But like the kid is not Jewish. So it's not so much of the fact that, hey, that kid wants to be white or wants to be an assumed Jewish person with white privilege, but it was the ideal that basically what he was doing was cultural appropriation. He wanted to have something that was not affiliated with his religion, and like a lot of people know that you cannot do that. So that was another subject, and people were saying, you know, I like how they compromised by giving him a bar mitzvah, but I don't think they really understood the fact that like that would have been cultural appropriation. That had nothing to do with being white now. It had something to do with the fact that he wanted to be a whole other religion. And like, I'm not going to get into the whole converting and all of that, but he was not Jewish. Like, it was assumed that he was Christian. So that was just a controversial subject in that show that I wanted to touch on. But I do want to see where his storyline goes, because I feel like people are being lenient over the whole, well, he just wants to have his own individuality and not just fall into the stereotype, because there's not just one way of blackness. But you know, there are so many black children who make that excuse, not knowing that half of their individuality is trying to fit into whiteness and white supremacy, and that ideal of respectability. Like, I'm different because I play video games, or I'm different because I go out camping and I like magic, and those are the things I like. But just because I like them does not make me a better black person, or like I'm cultured and I'm not narrow-minded, because you can like things like trap music, rap, hip-hop, you know, things that a lot of black youth do like, and still be an individual. Because so many times with respectability politics, they tell us to be like that Andy character in that show and to just be that good black person. So we're not even encouraged to like things that is stereotyped, that's ratchet or ghetto. We're told to just be good and just be quiet and not do anything wrong, and that's not right. And the whole being a positive black person, I know, falls into respectability, because their ideal of being positive is not doing drugs, not being from the streets, not being in a gang. And being a positive black person has nothing to do with being respectable. It has to do with uplifting people, uplifting blackness, and not having a narrow mind of what it is to be black, what it is to be respectable, or to be accepted into this society as African Americans and as anyone of African heritage and descent. I found it offensive in the beginning where he referred to Tracee Ellis Ross as pigmentally challenged, because first of all, that's kind of like ableist, and second of all, like, you have to already go into the whole, oh, you married, you know, a light-skinned black woman who is also half white, who you supposedly find that a resentful quality of her, but you still married her. Like, I don't know, because I feel like, you know, I make facetious comments about a lot of my black friends all the time who are light-skinned or biracial or half white or whatever, and I'm not serious, and they know I'm not serious. Sometimes I may be kind of trying to test them to see if they're going to say something slick, like, you right, I'm not really black, you know, I don't really identify. And that's cool that they don't identify, but it's kind of tricky where you are in a situation where someone will 1 minute say that they're black, but then 1 minute you say, I'm not really that black. So you're sort of like mimicking the things that a lot of biracial or multiracial black people say, because so many times I hear people say, I felt like trash when people said I was white, but at the same time they admitted that they didn't really identify as being black. So why did they get mad when a black person told them that they weren't really black when they themselves never identified as black in the first place? It doesn't make any sense. So I think they're going to go into the whole field of light skin privilege and maybe colorism too. But someone mentioned, oh, the oldest daughter is biracial, but she's not half white. I don't believe. Yeah, she is half black and half Iranian. So she, like, one of her parents is a POC. But I find that why do they always gotta get a biracial girl, like someone who's half something else? Like, it's kind of annoying, because like when it comes to older girls, they never really cast girls who are brown skinned and monoracial. They always usually get girls who are mixed and biracial to make it a point. Yes, she is the sex symbol of the show, or yes, she is the wise older daughter of the show who knows what she's talking about, but she has to be mixed to compensate for the fact that, you know, she's a black girl, but at least she's mixed. And that's how I see a lot of white people and a lot of color-struck black men do. They represent black women in this whitewashed or non-black facade of being mixed and being pretty, but she has to have a non-black parent, because they're never going to get like really a pretty black girl who has two black parents and who are not like biracial or anything like that, because they don't want to be like, that's a pretty black girl and then her just being black, because they want to fall back on the fact that she is, you know, maybe half white or half Iranian or half Cuban of a non-black parent. Like, they want to fall back on that, and I know that trick, and I know so many people do that. So many non-black people will claim that some biracial black person who is good looking is only that way because of the fact that they are part of them, but any other time, because of their anti-blackness, they would not be claiming them. And that happens all the time. And then there are cynical black people who do that too, who say, well, she's not really black. And a lot of them are color struck because they don't even like black people themselves. They don't even like dark skinned or monoracial black people. So they'll be like, well, they don't really count. I mean, it don't matter to me. Like, anyone who identifies as black and is a mixed African ancestor is black to me. But I just see the problem in shows that the oldest daughter, the wise one, like in the Cosby Show, have to be light skinned and in real life mixed, but the younger daughters, you know, who are more naive, infantile, like Rudy from the Cosby Show, who's not really a threat. So it's kind of like, since she's not sexually mature, since she's not mentally, like, you know, I don't mean in a bad way, like, since she does not have, you know, the mental capacity of thinking for herself at the moment, you know, beyond an 8-year-old girl, then they're going to be lean and get a dark-skinned girl for the role. But when it comes to, like, sexual maturity and what it is to be a black woman, they have to get someone who is close to white or non-blackness to represent that, so it does not disrupt white supremacy or threaten white womanhood. Because when it comes to black womanhood, the most important things are sexual maturity and, you know, intellectual maturity, like being at an age where you can think for yourself and you can come up with cognitive decisions and you know, you're not so young that you can pretty much be infantilized into silence. And that's why so many dark-skinned girls are either portrayed as really young, really innocent, or really old and just somewhat sexless. But then in between, like the woman, you know, in the youth stage, she has to be mixed and light-skinned. And that's really unfortunate. And it's just the same pattern he shows. The light-skinned mother who's mixed in real life and the light-skinned daughter who's mixed in real life. And it's never going to change. And we need to stop having shows that really just centers around black masculinity and, you know, their plights, and really dig deep into, you know, the black woman's plights, and not just get a Dear White People movie with another biracial actress to be like the smart, wise black girl that, you know, is like black power, and everyone doesn't really see her as a threat, but they kind of come at her all reckless. Like with me in real life, I'm not really the threatening type of black person. You know, I still have white people coming at me like, you know, hey, you know, please go back to your respectability role. You know, so they see me as a threat, that I'm not trying to be like respectable and trying to appease them because of the way I look or the way that I act, or like maybe my intelligence, because like a lot of times I am proficient in how I come across to a lot of people, so I'm not seen as a threat. But the moment I'm like, you know, black power, raising my fist, they like, whoa, 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 now you're a threat, like Malcolm X type of thing, or Angela Davis. But I'm still someone that can navigate in the world because of colorism, because of respectability politics, and that's just my personality. Like I'm not trying, well at least right now, or for now on, I'm not someone that's like, I'm different because I like something that a lot of black people do not like, because I have so many facets of myself. But like I said, Blackish does seem like a pretty good show. Like hopefully it gets better. It's just a like pilot, so I mean I hope it does not get canceled, because I think that a show like Blackish will be open for discussions of colorism and light skin privilege and mixed privilege and classism and upbringing privilege, like being born in the suburbs or going to a school in the suburbs, or living in the projects, or like living in the inner city. And like they don't really have any shows where it's like a black kid making it in the inner city, because a lot of these shows are usually, you know, African Americans who are either working class or middle class, but never to the point where they are near poverty. You know, so I think it should change, where they should have, you know, a black person from the inner city, from the streets, you know, just telling it how it is. But like that's more or less my review, or at least how I felt about the show. I mean, there's room for improvement, you know. Hopefully it doesn't really just focus on like the father. First of all, I just want to say that little boy is like really cute. He actually looks like a friend of mine that, you know, like that, you know, I'm friends with, that I like. So it's kind of like, you know, a fresh breath air, you know, to like get like a different perspective, and then have a perspective from the daughter and the children. So I kind of just wanted to be focused on the children. Like that's kind of what I want to see, not just like, you know, the black man thinking he knows everything and what it is to be black, but you know, like let's hear about the son and let's hear about the children. And Tracy Ellis Ross's character is just fried, like as of right now. So hopefully it gets better. But that's what I have to say about Blackish. You know, like being that it's a show about black people, in spite of, you know, half the characters being light skinned with that privilege and maybe representing like the respectable image of blackness, I feel like on principle you should really support, not really support it, like, you know, ignore the colorism. But when people try to say that, hey, it's racist because it's called Blackish, like you need to tell them we had Full House and that was more or less Blackish. So fuck y'all, and you're trying to make everything about white people, and the moment we have something about black people, you just feel threatened. But peace out.